When my wife cheated, I was absolutely devastated, near suicidal, but I survived. Here's how. I hope, with all my heart, this helps someone who's hurting and are trying to decide how to get through the pain of infidelity. First, for me this broke into two things I needed to accept and address. Those two things were, my insecurity. My perception of who she was versus who she really was. My insecurity, I felt like if I had been better somehow, she wouldn't have been tempted to cheat on me. It took me a long time to realize there was nothing wrong or substandard about me. I am who I am, warts and all. And if she didn't like who I was, cheating on me would not solve the problems between us. But while I was in the thick of it, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was somehow less than worthwhile. Since then, I have done a ton of work, with professional help, on my self-esteem. I have discovered why I felt less than, and I have also discovered why I had a shaky sense of who and what I was/am. In a sort of adjacent issue, I discovered that I have absolutely no control over other people. My insecurities led me to believe that if I could possess someone through marriage that I owned them. That I had a right to expect them to behave in certain ways. I have learned that part of the problem was that I believed her promises to me, our marriage vows, were somehow binding. They weren't. She was always free to do whatever she pleased. Don't get me wrong, if she couldn't commit to those promises, she probably shouldn't have made them, but people change. She may have truly meant it when she made the promises she made, but later changed her mind. It would have been nice if she would have said so, but even saying so, or not, is a choice she gets to make without any input from me because I don't own her. My perception of who she was versus who she really was. I believed I knew her. I believed that knowing who she was, enabled me to predict how she would act and that I could rely on my perception of who she was to keep me safe from emotional upset. I was wrong, mainly about who she was. I thought she was someone who would never cheat on me, someone who couldn't cheat on me. As far as I knew, she had never cheated on anyone else with whom she had been in a relationship. But her cheating showed me she was someone who could cheat on me. After the cheating, I was confronted with the fact that the person I was with looked and sounded exactly like the person I thought I had known. She had all the same mannerisms. She styled her hair the same. She wore the same clothes. She liked the same foods. She watched the same TV shows. In every way, she was the same person I thought I had known. Except that she wasn't. The person I was with after she cheated on me was a person who was interested, sexually, in others. She was a person who couldn't keep her marriage vows. She was a person who could lie to me. She was a person who didn't mind inflicting the pain of infidelity on me. For me, that made her a completely different person. But she looked, sounded, acted, smelled just like the person I was in love with. That's what made it so hard, so confusing. So hard to come to grips with and get over. It took me a long time to realize I had just been wrong about her, which really fed back into my insecurities. If I couldn't tell the difference between someone who loved me and someone who didn't mind hurting me, where did Tat leave me? How could I ever trust my own judgment again? Truth be told, I am still, at some level, in love with that person. I just accept that I have never actually met that person yet. The person who looked like the person I was in love with, wasn't actually the person I had fallen in love with. In the end, I decided I didn't want to be with the person she actually was. That's not the way it would have to be for everyone, that's just the decision I made at the time. I could see that I was beginning to mistreat her because of my pain and anger. I didn't want to be the person I was becoming. I could see, dimly at the time, that I wasn't going to be able to get over what she did unless I moved on without her. Under a different set of circumstances, I believe it might be possible for someone to accept the things that were ultimately true and find a way to fall in love with the other person based on who they actually are rather than who they were perceived to be. I have a friend who was able to make this his reality after his wife was unfaithful, so I know it's possible. To tie all these things together, here is where I am now. I have learned to trust my judgment again, but not in the same way. When I enter into a relationship with someone now, I do it with my eyes open. I don't believe that the relationship will give me ownership rights over them. I recognize my own responsibility in loving and respecting myself, and not expecting that to be provided by someone else. I recognize that they are not giving up their agency as a human being as we enter into a relationship. I recognize that all relationships end, either in breakup or the death of one of the parties. I recognize that in almost every case, one person will be done with a relationship before the other, and that's okay. It sucks if I happen to be the person who's not ready for the end, but if I truly love someone, then I should want what's best for them, through their eyes. If I can't do that, then I don't love them, I want to possess them. I want them as my property. That's not love. I recognize that two people can love each other but their togetherness can be toxic. I now have several exes who I am great friends with, but over our time together as lovers we discovered that it wasn't good or constructive for either of us to be together. I hated what happened in the infidelity and subsequent divorce. It hurt so much. Bad in a way that can never be described to a person who's never been through it. But at the same time, I am so grateful for it. That pain taught me things about myself, relationships, and love that I could never have learned in any other way. I've never remarried, I probably won't ever, but I now know what a good partner will look and feel like when I meet her. I still make bad choices here and there, of partners, but I now have the courage to end relationships that have no chance of flourishing, or are destructive in some way. Story 2. Cheat on me? I'll destroy your relationship with your mother. I was asked to submit this comment as a post, about one of my college buddies' revenge on his cheating girlfriend of 2 years. He found out that she was cheating on him and he was literally crying in his car for a few days. He was planning on marriage and kids and the white picket fence with her. He didn't tell her he knew, he told her that he was going to his parents' house for a few days to help them with some repairs. Instead he hung out with us and cried, literally cried in front of his buddies, for a couple of days. We helped him get out of it. He sobered up and told us how he was going to destroy her and I didn't even understand it at the time. But he was headed to a famous law school and was thinking way ahead of us. He drove to his girlfriend's mother's house, over an hour outside of town, with her items from his apartment nicely boxed up, and said he wanted to leave them with her for GF. GF's mom and him had met several times, he had gone to their Thanksgiving, etc. GF's mom was like, okay, but why? Having no reason to assume anything was off. And he added something quick like, I don't believe we'll run into each other again, but I had to give her the box back since it was important to me. But I want to express my gratitude to you for all you've done for me. I'm sorry that things didn't turn out as planned. GF's mom is taken aback and tries to question why, what, and everything else, but all my buddy does is start sobbing, I don't suppose on purpose, and then rushes off and drives away. She found out about it via her mother, who instantly phoned her, and he got confused and furious messages from the now ex as he was driving home from work. He never really broke up with the GF, in fact, he never ever contacted her. I don't recall the details, but it wasn't I'm sorry for my daughter. Instead, it was something along the lines of I hope you find a lady who loves you unconditionally or something to that effect. This was at least a couple of weeks after the incident took place. He didn't have anything nasty to say in response, but anything along the lines of, thank you, your message means a lot to me. Even though they are no longer together, the man continues to get messages from his ex-girlfriend, in which she claims that her mother tells her all the time that she destroyed everything with the one nice person she had and that she doesn't deserve to be happy because of it. A friend has not replied to even a single text that she has sent and has banned her on Facebook. My buddy wanted the harm to come from someone who would remain in his ex-life, girlfriends, not from someone who would be soon forgotten. Therefore, of course, everything about this was planned out to the last detail. He purposefully caused a split in what is perhaps the closest friendship that two women may have with one another. And all of this was accomplished in the course of a cordial 60-second exchange that included no angry language or accusations.